Hello there. Welcome to whatever we're calling this show. Hello, dear viewers. Welcome back to SiDEQUEST. Now, today I wanted to do something a little different. Instead of me being the questioned, I shall be the questioner. Is that how you say it in English? Is that grammatically correct? I don't know.
Yes, it is.
So, I apologize, I mix up languages. But, now, to you, my friends, Theogek and ArcTriton4466, what do you think the end game of SWTOR is going to look like? Because, from a lore perspective, I mean, you know from the beginning, at some point, the Sith Empire is going to fall. And for definite timing, it's got to be before 3350 VBY because there's a small faction called the Centrality, which declare independence from the Republic without any fear of invasion of any Sith Empire. So it's got to be before that. Now, do you guys believe that the game will ever touch on that, or that, like, when, you know, the sad day when the servers, I guess, eventually have to go? I hope there's at least a decade more, but what do you think? Do you think there will be a storyline to show the fall, or will it be left up in the air for things to? Because I was thinking about I never experienced this, but I've heard the tales of Star Wars Galaxies, the previous Star Wars MMO, and apparently, like, the final, the end, like, what the days before the servers were shut down were, like, literally meant to be concurrent with the Battle of Endor, and, like, you know, so the Empire gets defeated. So the rebellion is, like, rebellion affiliated players were basically triumphant. So what do you guys have any ideas on what might be done, what you might like to be done, what do you think the deal will be?
Well, why don't we give an overview answer, each of us, and then why don't we then give our support for that answer? So, Ted, why don't you go first?
I guess that one's a tricky question because it's unwritten, right? So we know at some point, unless it's not unwritten, and you know, my knowledge of the lore is extremely limited compared to some people. So, to my knowledge, there is a great battle between the Sith and the Republic, and you know, at that time, the Sith are basically destroyed. Now, why does that happen? You know, is that from internal, you know, now we know during the Great Hyperspace War that basically they were not able to achieve dominance because of infighting. So, you know, all the fractioning of, you know, this leader and my power and my little, you know, scope of space and my little scope of space, and I'm going to murder your, you know, whoever.
You're confusing with the era of the new Sith Wars, which are from 2000 to 1000 BBY. So that's a reforming of the Sith Empire, but it's not the same organization.
It's not the same fall. We're not saying it's not the same fall.
Yes. So. Yeah.
See,
so,
this is why we have this show.
Yes. So that organization far later is eventually culminates in what's called the Brotherhood of Darkness, which was a very different in its philosophy, but that was the one. You may have heard the tales of Darth Bane, who he basically manipulated pulled the strings to make them collapse, because in his philosophy of the rule of two, to sum it up, to use a metaphor he used, in his view, the Force is like venom. He said something like, pour it into 1,000 cups and you'll cause nothing but a mild headache. Pour it into one vessel, you shall stop a great dragon's heart. So that was why it was to him, his perspective on the dark side, there could only be one master, one apprentice, as opposed to the 1,000 you see running around in SWTOR and the New Sith Wars, and prior to that during, Nagasidao's time and whatnot. But my question was in specifically to the Sith Empire we see within the Old Republic game. Do you think, because they're going out, are they going out with a bang or a whimper?
It's always okay when doing anything as far as creating a story. It's time. Time is the biggest factor, because then that compresses down to each individual scene. So, in my mind, if you're going to create a pretty grand story, obviously you want to have a beginning and an end. So where's the end? Now you say this, culmination of Sith war, blah 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 blah. This giant battle 2,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Is that what we're saying? The second, not the end of this Sith Empire in our game, but this other...
This other one was 1,000 BBY. That's when... Or 1,032. Because...
When did it form? That would be the question.
So, circa 2,000 BBY, Darth Ruin and Mbaran broke away from the Jedi Order and reformed the Sith. And prior to that, there had not been a Sith seen in over a millennium. So,
a millennium, so 1,000 years.
Yes, over. So,
so it's safe to assume that it's not much further, because where are we at in our timeline? We're
3600s. They're still. Well, as I said, they're with the centrality, they're the absolute maximum that this Sith Empire we know in game can continue to exist for is about 2 centuries.
Another 2 centuries?
The absolute maximum.
So only another 200 years? So we're into 34 BBY. So how do you know that? That's the next question I would have.
That was what I said at the beginning, with the centrality.
Just have to repeat. Me. I can't retain.
It's fine. No, there was a group that broke away and became independent from the Republic without any fear of invasion by any other great force, aka a Sith. Because had they done that during SWTOR time, they'd just get conquered by the Empire. But they didn't. So, that's just been something that the fan base has talked about for a bit. But, so yes, the absolute maximum is just over 2 centuries. But going back to the topic of what I think I would like, rather, I guess, would be in a similar fashion to Star Wars Galaxies, have a form of great big event to showcase the fall of the Sith. Maybe have Republic, you could have maybe, I don't know, the day before server shutdown, have an all-out invasion of Drummond Kaas or something. Have every Republic player come to to roll in. Like
okay. Well, where's the, but reallocation of resources. Where is all of this going to the next? So that's my problem. Is you say that
that's the thing.
Now
the end.
Well, I'm not a believer. I'm so limited in my vocabulary too. I'm sure there's a much better word in English to define what I'm feeling right now. But who gives a crap? I just know that that's not how this should go out. Now, considering what they've, from what I've heard, and I'm, like I said, it's not very much, but 7.0 was supposed to be a lot of money, just in the terms of you're changing the game fundamentally, and that's a unique engine designed for this game, specifically, and then you had to basically drag people out of retirement, so to speak, to get the whole entire thing changed. So their forecast has got to be positive. Like, we're looking at going to be doing
as I said, I hope it goes on for like a...
Okay, well, I don't see the battle. I don't even see it happening there. I see that the end of this game would be the transition into whatever the new medium platform would be for this game. Now, whether or not that's your character gets transported into the future, 200 years, and they skip all that, I don't see them doing that. I see, if you're going to continue this title, you go until the very end.
I'm talking about what happens when this title ends. Like, because at some point, I mean, well,
but why does it have to end? No, think about how stuff
the storyline
changes.
Cannot continue forever.
Yes, it can. Now, think about that for a second. You say that it can't continue forever. That's like saying that George Lucas's script for the initial Star Wars, and then he had to break it down into 3. And then he had to basically deal in the rights because he thought, this movie's going to fail. And if it fails, they're going to shelve my next 2 movies. And, of course, the studios, thinking, this is wild kid. We already seen, THX. We've already seen American Graffiti, which kind of made it in because they kind of experimented enough to get people to know. They marketed it so brilliantly. There's a whole story, a little scam, and how him and what's his name, Francis Coppola, get all that done, and then everybody else who's involved, how they just brilliance. But no, anyway, I've lost my train of thought again. But no, it needs to just.
They're never gonna actually show the end.
And if you do, it's either because the game is truly dead, that's when you would have an ending for it, is if the game is going to end, you're not going to pitch any more money into continuation. But think about this, as long as the world exists, which if you read the news lately, it doesn't look great, but that's every century, right? Or every decade, or whatever. Everybody's got their own problems they got to deal with, so our problems are no different. So art and all this kind of stuff should continue. How many wars have happened since Star Wars was conceived, and it still continues? It's Star Wars. So I don't know. I'd like to see it, but if not, then you're right. I think probably some kind of massive, all out. I don't know how they do it. I only think if you were going to let it end, you probably wouldn't even put that much time into it, because really, they didn't do that for Galaxies, from what I know. The research I've done on Galaxies, they didn't have, the players put it together. Now, that would probably happen in our game. If they were going to shut it down, the community would have some kind of massive thing. Because you have a huge...
but there was a little, as I said...
Was it really, though? Or did they just shut off the lights?
You could see, the Death Star blow up and stuff, to my understanding. You could see...
Oh, really? Okay, that's totally different. I had no idea about that. Remember well, I guess you didn't know this, but the video, we got to post that, which I've noticed we haven't been doing. I feel so bad for the audience. We keep saying every time, we're going to post. Anyway, hopefully everybody is tech savvy. If you're listening to this show, then you care somewhat about technology, so you'll probably be able to just look up the stuff because we're saying it in English. And anyway, but okay, yeah, no, if it was to be that fabulous, where stuff is blowing up like the Death Star and stuff like that, I think that would be pretty cool. What a cool way to end the game, is to basically tie the lore together in some magical way that, you know, celebrates it all and it all goes off with bang.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm talking about. Like, do you
well,
think there would be
so
a
why did you
conquest
ask
of
me?
Drummond
I don't
Cass
know.
or like core or like what do you think?
My answers have been depressing compared to that. Then, if we just could have cut to the butter, then geez, I don't know. Well, then yes, you're right. It would be some kind of awesome, but then like you just have to keep it extremely close to the lore because like then you're basically burying that until somebody revives that lore again in content. You would be burying that, so you would want to do it exceptionally well if you cared about the people who paid for, you know, the experience, which that's what you do it as. You as an artist or whatever you do as a performer, you do it for the audience. And if you don't have an audience that enjoys what you've, you know, given, that's how can you? I don't know. Why would you want to do it? I don't know. I'm done. My answers are over.
Okay. Fair enough. Hal, have you got any thoughts?
Well, I answer your question with a question, which is how much time has been covered in the time that SWTOR has been alive?
I believe the 16 years have passed, to my understanding, from the beginning of each of the class stories.
So you'd have to cover a lot of time in a very short period of time.
What do you mean? No. There theoretically there'd be no. As I said, absolute maximum 2 centuries. Minimum, the Sith Empire could have collapsed the following year in game. I don't know. It's as I said.
So it's not dependent on anything that's currently in the timeline. It's just when BioWare would decide that the Sith Empire is to fall and the game is to end.
Precisely. Yeah. No. They when they were putting it all together, they chose a very good time frame to set things in because it was a completely blank slate and they were able to completely flesh it out for there. So that was really good. The only minor retroactive issue was that previously published lore books and stuff basically acted would even in-universe ones seem a little weird in retrospect now that you see stuff jump from the Sith, if you see jump from Darth Revan and then Nihilus Traya and Scion straight down to Darth Ruin, so without any Sith in between. It's there was they called it the Inter-Sith Wars period, even though a war we now see that a war more devastating than either of those happened in between. So it's what's funny with that, but time marches on in any sense because even even in but I guess that's the nature of transmedia in any sense as things media is released, because I remember I believe it was the first edition of the Essential Chronology, which came out after Phantom Menace but before Attack of the Clones. So it went into all this great detail about the invasion of Naboo or whatever. And then there's one paragraph about the Clone Wars, and then great detail about all the events of the Dark Times and the films and whatever. So I just find that really funny.
So what events would have to occur for the Sith Empire to be overthrown?
Good question. I'm not... Well, for all we know, they're already setting things up with how, in the current storyline, Malgus is, it's this will end everything. And like, so I don't know. Is he inadvertently just destroying his own?
Well, I mean, is it like the overthrow of the Dark Council? Is it?
Yeah, it would. You know, I guess it would involve. Yes, there would have to be a massive effort on the Republic's front to re-enter Sith space, conquer Korriban, Dromund-Kaas, so on and so forth, and to just basically wreck them all over again, like they did 1400 years prior during Naga Sadao's whole shtick.
Huh.
But that was different time. The Sith weren't as formidable back then, so well, in some senses, not so in others. But alas, we've I believe we're running short on time. Anything else you guys want to say, or continue this next time, or anything else on your mind?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments that you'd like to share, or your questions on what you think, or your answers to what you think this question might be asking as to when the Sith Empire might be overthrown, and or what that would look like in contributing to the end of game, please comment below.
Yes, please. Yeah, audience. Always feel free to drop a comment, and we read them all, so we'll address that. Regardless, thank you for joining us, and the Force be with you.